A second common money problem kind of question in secondary 2 looks like this. Leah has a piggy bank with only nickels and quarters. She knows that she has a total of $2, but she also knows the total number of coins is 16. How many nickels and quarters does Leah have in her bank? So let's first identify what exactly the coins are that we have. So we have nickels and we have quarters. Okay. We also know that together those nickels and quarters total $2. We also know that the total number of coins in her bank are 16 coins of nickels and quarters. So starting off, let's identify our variables here. We have N for nickels and we have Q for quarters. So first, that's the first thing. Secondly, we have two different types of equations. We have one where the total is $2, so it's equal to $2, but we have another one where our equation is equal to 16. Now, what's the difference between those two? So let's just talk about the number of coins for the first part. So if we talk about the number of coins, we're basically saying that the number of nickels plus the number of quarters is equal to 16. So there's 16 of the coins of nickels and quarters. Our second equation that we need to deal with has to do with this $2 here. If you recall, nickels are worth 5 cents and quarters are worth 25 cents. So if we were to rewrite this out in some kind of equation, we would say that 0.05 times nickels plus 0.25 times quarters is going to equal to $2. But here's our problem. Well, here's two problems. One, we have two variables. We have N and we have Q. So this is our problem. Our second problem is that we have two equations. So what can we do with these two equations here that at least gives us one variable? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the first equation up here for a second. And I'm going to say to myself, I think that I am going to be able to isolate one of these variables, N or Q. And if I do that, that means that I can find the value of one of these variables. And if I do that, I'm just going to pick N. I'm just going to isolate N. Now, you could have isolated Q, but I'm going to isolate N. I'm going to get N alone. And if I do that, you need to remember that you take this Q and you subtract it. So that's all I'm going to do. And when you do that, you're going to get, if I do that, I'm just going to get, in a smaller pen here, N is equal to 16 minus Q. So here's my N, it's alone, and I know what it's equal to. It's equal to 16 minus Q. Now, knowing that, and looking at our second equation here, maybe I can replace this N with what it's equal to. And that way, I'll have one variable, just the Q. So let's see what happens when I do that. I'm going to do 0.05, and instead of putting the N, I'm going to put what it's equal to. 16 minus Q plus this 0.25Q, which I'm not going to change, and that's all equal to 2. I'm not going to bother putting the decimals right now. So now all I need to do is distribute. So if I distribute, I get that 0.05 times 16 is 0.08. Or no, just 0.8. Let me erase this. 0.8. Okay, minus 0.05Q plus 0.25Q, and that's equal to 2. So far so good here. Now all we need to do is add our like terms and solve for Q. And if we do that, we are going to get that 0.2Q is equal to 1.2, and dividing by 0.2 on both sides, we will get that Q is equal to 6. So voila, we have just found how many quarters there are in her bank, which is one part of the question, because the other part of the question here asks how many nickels and quarters. So here are the quarters, okay, but now we are going to want to find the nickels. let me erase that because my highlighter didn't really do such a good job here. So Q is equal to 6 in this case. Now if I remember up here, right up here I said that N is equal to 16 minus Q. Now remembering that, I'm going to just rewrite it down here and say, okay, if N is equal to 16 minus Q, and now I know that Q is equal to 6, I'm going to do 16 minus 6, and I'm going to get that N is equal to 10. So in my bank, you could say something fancy like, Leah has 6 quarters and 10 nickels in her bank, if you wanted to. But just to recap here, we started off with 2 different types of equations. We had one that totaled the number of coins, and we had one that totaled the worth, the amount of money we had. And we set up 2 separate equations, saying to ourselves, we only need or we only want one variable. So taking this one here, whether you would isolate it for N or you isolate it for Q, it doesn't matter, but we just want to know the value of one of the variables. I decided to make N equal to 16 minus Q, and then I took this and I just plugged it in as N into my equation over here. So instead of putting 0.05 N, I put 0.05 16 minus Q plus a 0.25 Q, and that was equal to 2. I just solved my equation for Q as 6, and then remembering that I had isolated N up here, I rewrote it down here, except now I knew that Q is equal to 6, so I do 16 minus 6, and that's equal to 10. If you want to check your work, you could either plug these numbers into this equation here, or into this equation here, and I guarantee you that N plus Q is going to be 16, and this equation is also going to be equal to $2. And that's it.